The Supreme Court has announced that they will be weighing in on Colorado's controversial removal of Donald Trump from the GOP primary ballot. As you probably already know, both Colorado, as a result of a decision from their Supreme Court, as well as Maine, due to a decision from the Democratic Secretary of State, have removed him from the ballot. And we've been expecting that the Supreme Court is going to weigh in. And also understanding that they kind of have to weigh in at this point. This is exactly what the Supreme Court is for. Well, they will be determining the viability of that decision, and we don't have to wait too long for it. Oral arguments are scheduled for February 8th. We don't know how long those will go on. We don't know how long after that we'll have to wait for a final decision. But considering that February 8th is already after a couple of the GOP primary dates, they can't really wait that long. This uncertainty could lead to more states removing him from the ballot. There is always the possibility that Biden could be in some underhanded way that strains the definition of the 14th Amendment removed. So the SCOTUS has a responsibility and a duty to weigh in, and they are finally announcing that they will do that. I want to start with you, Senator Nina Turner. What do you expect about this? Are you surprised? How do you expect them to finally rule?
No, I'm not surprised, John. And as you mentioned, they have to weigh in on this. We're at a critical juncture right now. I really suspect that they're going to say that the states don't have the right to bump him off the ballot. We know that United States Supreme Court is really stacked with his nominees, but this is unprecedented. And since he hasn't been convicted of anything in terms of the insurrection, this is pretty complicated. I want people to put aside how they feel about Donald J. Trump, and I know how many in our audience probably feels, and ask the question about whether or not this is the way to go about it. We know that in Colorado and Maine, we know Democrats are in control of what is happening here, and it makes it very easy for Trump to say, see, told you these Democrats are rigging the system. So this it's not a good look. And lastly, the vote should be the determination about whether or not somebody should have the ability to run or even win, more importantly, should be left up to the voters. Again, this has nothing to do with whether I feel like Donald J. Trump should be president again or not. It really is about, does this set up a terrible precedent that will impact other candidates, not just Donald J. Trump, into the future?
Yeah, I think that, given that this is a rather unprecedented situation, it's, easy to say that they'll probably go ahead and let Trump off. But I know how Colorado was settled and Maine was settled happened a bit differently technically. But, again, right now, the Supreme Court really does need to step in. Otherwise, we're just going to have state after state that makes a decision. I saw the other day, Illinois, 5 voters wanted to have him off the ballot. So it's really time for the Supreme Court to step in. But the thing about it, though, is that Donald Trump in court, he can say what he wants and the polls are showing what they're showing. But in court, he doesn't have a case. I mean, his whole case is, I can do whatever I want because I was president. And that's really not boding well. He's losing all of his appeals. He's really not doing well in any of this. So even if the Supreme Court lets him stay on, he's going to be on trial this entire year. So we're just getting started with seeing a bunch of craziness and how everything is going to blow up. We're just at the beginning of it. But I mean, we'll just have to sit back and see what happens.
Yeah, see what happens and see how it happens. Because there's a number of different ways that the Supreme Court, if they did end up allowing him to remain on the ballot, which I, like Nina and probably I'm assuming Jackson, feel free to weigh in if you don't think so, believe that they will rule that he should be on the ballot. Even if they do that, there are a variety of different ways that they can do it. And the long-term consequences in terms of what precedent is being set very much could be determined by that. Are they going to have it come down to the definition of insurrection or the definition of involved in an insurrection? Is it going to come down to the fact that they think that it shouldn't apply to the president, or is it that they're not going to actually weigh in on the definition of those words or the intent of those who wrote Section 3 and instead simply say, political question, blah, 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 we're gonna leave it to the voters. There's a variety of different ways that they can do it. And I believe, Jackson, it was you and I that talked about how in Bush v. Gore, they explicitly said, we're not going to be trying to set a precedent here. This applies to this particular case. It's possible that they could do that as well. So as I said, February 8th, we don't have long to wait. I have a feeling the eyes of the nation will be on that, and we're going to be dissecting the arguments that both teams' lawyers make, as well as how the Supreme Court responds.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.